When people talk about the best drivers in F1, George Russell's name rarely comes up, and that's a mistake. Drivers such as Charles Leclerc and Pierre Gasly receive more praise relative to what they have achieved in the sport. George Russell is a driver many overlook, for a variety of reasons. Many say that he should be achieving more, given that he is in a Mercedes. Others claim that he shouldn't have lost to Lewis during their time together at Mercedes, in terms of overall points scored. George joined Formula One in 2019 with Williams, who had come off the back of a terrible 2018 season. His first season in Formula One was not one to write home about. He scored no points the entirety of the season, to his teammate Robert Kubica's one, but George whitewashed him in qualifying, beating the pole 21-0. This season is where George earned the nickname Mr. Saturday, and people started to recognise that despite being in a terrible car, he did have true potential. During George's second season in Formula One, he once again had a difficult season with Williams, failing to score points. However, leading up to the 2020 Sakhir Grand Prix weekend, Lewis Hamilton tested positive for the virus, and George, as the reserve driver for Mercedes, was asked to step in Lewis's place. George was going from the slowest car on the grid to the fastest for one weekend, so he was probably as happy as Max Verstappen is watching these McLarens bottle this championship. George was incredible. He qualified P2 on the Saturday, just 0.026 seconds of Valtteri Bottas, his teammate. George took the lead of the race at turn 1 and looked like he was going to achieve his first ever Grand Prix win. However, disaster struck on lap 63 of the Grand Prix. George's tyres were mixed up during a double stack, which is illegal. This dropped George from 1st to 5th, destroying his chances of winning his first Formula One race for Mercedes. George was actually making a comeback through the field, charging back up to 2nd. However, George got a puncture due to debris on the track on lap 78, ruining his race. This performance was the best of George's career up to that point. He had only 2 days to prepare for arguably the most important race of his life, and would have won the race had he not have been so unlucky. He showed tremendous pace, and would have beaten Valtteri Bottas on debut. George's first major result came at the 2021 Belgium Grand Prix. During a wet qualifying session, George managed to qualify in 2nd place, ahead of reigning world champion Lewis Hamilton in a Williams. Words cannot describe how phenomenal of a performance this was. On the Sunday, the race only ran for 2 laps behind the safety car due to heavy rain. As less than half of the distance of the race was completed, only half points were awarded. There was no opportunity for overtaking, so George finished in incredible 2nd place, claiming his maiden podium finish, and Williams' first podium since 2017. In 2022, George signed with Mercedes, finally, and his teammate was 7-time champion Lewis Hamilton. Against all odds, George managed to outscore Lewis that season, scoring 275 points to Lewis's 240. George also got his maiden win at Brazil, the team's only victory in 2022. George beating Lewis in his debut season for Mercedes goes under the radar because Mercedes didn't have the competitive package that season. They were miles behind Red Bull and Ferrari, who dominated that season. George proved that, despite his lack of achievements up to that point, he was and is a very capable driver that is highly adaptable. 2023 was a difficult season for the Brit. He finished 59 points behind Lewis in the standings and finished 8th in the championship, whereas Lewis finished 3rd. George had a lot of bad luck, but many incidents, such as famously crashing on the final lap of the 2023 Singapore Grand Prix, costing him a podium.
No!
2023 was the first season in George's career that you could consider below average, even though it was around where most critics believed he would be relative to Lewis. However, the pendulum swung in George's favour in 2024. He suffered from awful luck throughout the season, such as being disqualified in Belgium for excessive plank wear after taking victory, and having a water pump issue in Silverstone, while on course for a podium finish at minimum. When the W15 was the quickest car, or at least competitive enough to be near the front, George was always there to capitalise. He took victories in Austria and Las Vegas. Austria was due to Lando and Max fighting to the death for the win, and ending up effectively taking each other out. However, George put himself in the position to capitalise. In Las Vegas, Mercedes was the quickest car due to cooler temperatures and low downforce. Overall, George beat Lewis 2-1 in their season head-to-head. This achievement solidified George as a complete driver within the paddock, and with the rookie Kimi Antonelli coming into the team in 2025, looked ready and capable of being a team leader. 2025 has so far been a defining year for George. With Lewis Hamilton deciding to sacrifice the rest of his career by joining Ferrari, George has become the lead driver for Mercedes. So far this season, George has once again extracted as much as possible out of his W16, taking defining victories at Singapore and Canada. Every weekend in which Mercedes have had a race-winning car so far, George has taken victory. He currently sits 4th in the standings with 2 wins and 8 podiums. He is dominating Kimi Antonelli, who sits down in 7th. George has demonstrated incredible consistency, combining speed with strategic racecraft and capitalising on the opportunities that other drivers might miss. Hopefully in 2026, Mercedes remember they won 8 constructors' titles in a row, and build a car that can be competitive on all tracks. If I was George, I'd be so annoyed right now, especially considering that a team like Mercedes give their engines to McLaren, who have won back-to-back constructors' titles and are likely to win the Drivers' Championship also. Looking at George's career as a whole, it's clear that he is one of the most underrated drivers on the grid. From his early days, dragging a hopeless Williams up the order, to nearly winning on debut with Mercedes, to showing he can consistently beat a 7-time world champion, George has shown talent, resilience and maturity beyond his years.